Let's talk Iron Soldier for the Atari Jaguar as well as the Sony PlayStation and VM Labs NUON. And so the first game that you're seeing here was only released on the Atari Jaguar back in 1994. Sequel came out on the Jaguar CD and later cartridge in 1996, and then there was a little bit of a hiatus where then Iron Soldier 3 is what eventually came out on non-Atari platforms, such as the aforementioned PSX as well as the VM Labs NUON. Now, my personal interest in this always came out of my enjoyment of Mech Warrior. I played the very first Mech Warrior on DOS. Didn't get a lot of experience playing Mech Warrior 2 or 3. I don't think I ever played 3. Played 4, but only in arcades, as there was an arcade version. But what's interesting about Iron Soldier to me is it's kind of like an arcade style version of Mech Warrior, but of course for the Jaguar, and thus it's been kind of obscured by time out of the many games that had licensing not been an issue that would have been nice to see on the Atari 50th Anniversary Collection. At least Iron Soldier 2 would have been great. But what I'm going to do on this video is show you all three Iron Soldiers. Just going to kind of compare the first levels to each other without commentary, just so you can see them however you want to. Of course, the one you're seeing here is the very first one. The footage that I have of Iron Soldier 2 comes from the cartridge version, which lacks full motion video, but that's not what I'm going to really focus on anyways. Just going to focus on the levels and the graphics. Now, the very first Iron Soldier, it had some texture mapping, but not a ton. And so most of it was flat shaded polygons. As you can see, there was some, or the enemies were textured, as well as some buildings, but not all of them. The trees, interestingly enough, would use ground shading. So as you can see that they look a little more shaded than, say, your buildings. But to me, one of the most satisfying things of all the Iron Soldier games is the explosions when you, say, throw a grenade at a building and watch it blow up into a bunch of cubes. Of course, even the enemies themselves blowing up is kind of satisfying in its own way. But one thing, a couple more things to note. On Iron Soldier 2, there was a lot more texture mapping. And of course, Atari at the time in 1995, because they were in a panic over the 3D and texture mapping power of the PlayStation and the Saturn, they were pushing their developers to do as much 3D texture mapping that they could on the Jaguar. The problem is that the Jaguar hardware was designed in 1992 before they were really thinking about texture mapping, and so it wasn't really made for that. And so, well, yes, it could do it, but it couldn't do it very fast. And so it at least showed up in Iron Soldier 2, where Iron Soldier 2 was able to maintain the same kind of frame rate, but with better graphics, and really it was a second generation game. Not many developers were able to develop more than one thing for the Jaguar. And so Iron Soldier 2 shows that there was potential there. But Iron Soldier 3, of course, coming out on different platforms. I don't have the PlayStation version. I'm going to show you the VM Labs NUON version, which would probably be one of the most obscure versions out there. Now, just as also a note there, the video on that is very dark, and I'm not sure why. It's just dark on my TV. It was dark in the capture, and so I'll do some dangling with it to see if I could brighten it up a little bit, but it just seems to be naturally dark. But the NUON version did look better than the PlayStation version, just more special effects and things like that, but otherwise it looks almost like Iron Soldier 2 in a way, just with, again, more special effects and more lighting effects, better explosions, and hills. But anyways, I'll shut up now and let you observe the 3 games next to each other. So there you go. Those I cut out IS-2 and IS-1 earlier, although I think it was just like 10 seconds left on the Iron Soldier 1 level there. Beat the Iron Soldier 3 sooner, so they weren't all perfectly synced up, whatever. But either way, if you ever do come across any of these games, they're cool. I mean, if you're into mech games at all, yeah, they're not gonna be as deep as most mech games that I've played, but if you want something that's just more quick, almost, again, arcade-style action, I mean, not quite arcade, but with a little bit of adjustments that these games probably could have worked inside of an arcade machine. Yeah, it's always been one of my favorite little obscurities from the 90s era, and so especially on the NUON, I think this is one of the rarest games on the NUON, although it was re-released by Songbird Productions last year, 2022, and so if you have a NUON DVD player, then it's a great grab to get a hold of. Just like I said, for whatever reason, the video is a little bit dark, so I had to enhance it for this. But let me know what you thought, and we'll see you around.